Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tea and Magic, a weekly show that we have here on the Magic Grove, where I get to interview and chat with some of my amazing guests. Today, we're talking about the magic of being an empath, and I have one of my favorite humans on the earth here with us, Amber Rochelle Huffer, who is the CEO of Sensitive Badass. She is an empath. She coaches highly sensitive people. She's also a witch and happens to be one of my best friends. So hello, thank you for coming.
Of course, I'm so excited to be on the show. Hi, everyone.
Well, let's just start right off the bat with what, there's a lot of people out there that know that they're an empath or that might think they're an empath or they're feeling so much right now. So if you could just describe what an empath is and also what a highly sensitive person is, because I know that is very tied to your DNA as well.
Yeah, exactly. So some people use those words interchangeably. Some people see a difference between them. It's really just, vernacular. I think that what matters most is how you experience the world. And both of those terms really refer to how we experience the world. So if we are talking about a highly sensitive person, that is really more of a scientific term, I guess you could say, because it is based off of your DNA and it's an actual genetic trait that about 20% of the population have. So it really actually changes the way that your brain is wired if you have that genetic trait. And so basically what it means and the way that you see the world differently is that if you are a highly sensitive person or an HSP, which is just, the short version, but basically your brain takes in more information from the world around you, but it also processes it more deeply. And when I say information, I mean audible, visual, emotional, mental, like everything that you experience. So all your senses, we as HSPs are taking that in on a much deeper level. And so the kind of brain science behind it is that if you have this genetic trait, you actually have more activation in what's called your mirror neurons in your brain. And those neurons are the ones that give, everyone has them, even if you're not highly sensitive, because they're what gives humans empathy. So if I, for example, see Kristen take a drink of her tea, the mirror neurons in my brain fire so that I understand what kind of an experience she's having. So if you're a highly sensitive person, you have much more activation there. And that is why as HSPs, we can really, really deeply empathize with people, put ourselves in their shoes and feel their feelings. Now, when it comes to being an empath, in my opinion, most all highly sensitive people are empaths. Some might not consider themselves that way. And again, that's fine. It really is about your own individual experience of life. Empath is a bit more of a spiritual term. And so you can be an empath and not be highly sensitive, but empaths really have a very, very core, deep level of empathy. So as empaths, we feel everything. And we feel at times like 100. We can walk into a room and just read the energies in the room. We kind of know what people are feeling. We can read, if there's tension in the room. One of the biggest struggles that a lot of us have as empaths, and I bet you that a lot of you guys watching this today are feeling this right now because of everything that's going on in the world, is that we sometimes absorb so much from other people that it's hard for us to know what's ours and what's theirs. And it can become very, very overwhelming and almost feel like you're carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders because you are just feeling everything and then not only absorbing it, but like hanging on to it for a while longer.
Can we just talk about that for a second? Because that is the reason why, first of all, I love you. You know that. You're so brilliant. You're such an expert in this field because this is what you do. You are an empath. You are an HSP. You coach people. But also what we're going through right now, there are a lot, and I know you've experienced this as well, is there are a lot of times when I am just feeling, I'm an HSP and I'm feeling everything, and it's regardless of what's happening in my own life. I am absorbing all of this energy and it's a lot. And I sometimes encounter people that say, oh, just turn it off, or you're being too sensitive, or, just go out and heal and ground. And I just want to point out that sometimes those tools don't work on highly sensitive people. You just have to let the energy absorb and flow, because it isn't always possible to turn it off. So could you touch base on that? Because I think a lot of people that are sensitive get a little shamed and feel a little guilty for being sensitive, and also feel like, wow, I'm doing all of these things, like I'm clearing my mind, I'm clearing my body, and like it's not working. And when you encounter a situation like this pandemic, it is a completely different ballgame for us, for our people, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so glad that you brought that up, because there's two really, really good points in there, where we do get shamed. And unfortunately in our society, especially here in America, emotions and feelings, and especially, physical showing of having those emotions and feelings is not really, accepted. There's a lot of messages that we get that's like, you need to toughen up, or, grow a thicker skin, or you should be letting this roll off your back more. Don't take things so seriously. A lot of these messages that us HSPs and or empaths get pretty continually. And, unfortunately what happens is when we grow up in an environment where we are receiving feedback that we are somehow doing something wrong just by being who we are, that can be extremely detrimental to our self-esteem, to our mental well-being, to our emotional well-being, and to, our confidence in who we are at our core. And so I could talk about that for a whole hour in and of itself.
I know, right? It's huge.
Yeah, it is, because it colors everything in your life. Because if you believe deep down inside that just being who you are and experiencing the world the way that you experience it is somehow wrong, like that's terrible, right? I felt that way for so much of my life until I started doing this healing work with myself. So what I will say on that, because like I said, I could run like a 6-hour class on that. And but what I will say to those who are listening is like, that is societal conditioning. So one of the most important things that you can do for yourself if you feel that way is to separate yourself. Like, it's because we take it on as if it's truth, as if what everyone else is telling us, as if that is truth. But you need to stand in your own truth and recognize that there's a separation between what you may have, the messaging that you may have gotten from society, and the truth of who you are and what's true in the world at large and in the universe at large. And that is much easier said than done. And I know that. And there's a lot of healing that goes into coming back into your own and standing in your own truth, regardless of what people are telling you. But just know, from two of us who have been through this and walked through, hell, that
really hell on earth.
Yeah, that is the honest truth, that it's just their opinion. And so you get to decide what's true about you. And both Kristen and I are stood very firmly in the fact that it's actually takes a lot more strength to show your emotion. To be an empath and to be an HSP is hard.
Yes.
Really hard. And so this message that we're somehow weak is complete and total bullshit. And that's why I use the term sensitive badass, because it's like, honestly, not only do we navigate the world with this extra layer of sensing and carrying around everybody's feelings and energies, but we're also deeply powerful healers. And so this concept that we're weak is just like beyond, like I can't even comprehend that. So just know that you are exceptionally strong and exceptionally needed. And then to the point of how do we deal with this when our tools aren't working, right? When our grounding tools, our clearing tools aren't working. I love all of those tools. I love earthing. I love grounding. I, myself have used the tools of, seeing yourself in an energetic cloak or in a bubble or whatever it is that you may have used or tried or do use. They're all great, but the thing about those is that they're more of a Band-Aid than like a long-term fix. So yes, they can help in the moment at times, but that can't be the only thing that you do if you want to really thrive as an empath in this world, and especially in this day and age. We can't always be trying to push away or push down or, yes, we need to release and let go. But what can happen there very easily is that it starts to become this sort of spiritual bypassing, where it's like, oh, okay, I'm just going to let this stuff go. I'm just going to move past it. I'm going to ground myself and like, I'm going to be fine. But the honest truth is, that we have to actually feel some of this stuff because that is how our system processes it.
Yes.
So in addition to having these tools that can work really great in the moment when we need to keep going, when we have all this stuff that we're dealing with, but we have work to show up to and we have a family to take care of, right? But in the longer term, it's really about doing energy work on a consistent daily basis and having a very solid self-care routine and letting yourself get tools, learn tools, coping skills to be able to have those feelings, be dealing with those feelings, and still be cats.
They're in all my videos. So it's like they're in every video. Everyone knows that they're like, they love the camera.
We might get a visit from mine too. Yeah, it's really more about like, it's a more robust way of looking at it. So that, you know, when you can't, when those tools aren't working for you, you can still live your life and know how to cope with the energies and the feelings that you're carrying.
There's just so much that we're going to be talking about. You touched on so many amazing points, but first I want to pause and ask you what you're drinking because it says tea and magic and we're like, well, we're just going to dive right in.
I know. We didn't even, well, first of all, this is my favorite cup. I'm obsessed. But it's not coffee. It is Earl Grey because this is tea and magic. So I am drinking Earl Grey out of my favorite coffee cup.
Yes, I love it. And I am also drinking out of my favorite coffee cup. Sorry, guys. I have a whole unicorn collection. When I moved, I was like, I'm just buying only unicorn mugs from now on. And then I found like the best, most sauciest unicorn mugs on Amazon. Because you know what? I will say that I bought those mugs after going through like a really tough time and like sort of at the tail end of my I don't really want to call it my awakening because I feel like I've woken up so long ago, but I think a lot of us empaths the last 8 to 10 years have gone through some really, really heavy work, self-work, if you were there. And that's when I bought this mug. I was like, okay, you know, you can read what it says. Like that was a message to the universe. God, you touched on so many amazing things. I want to start with this. First of all, you know, because we're talking about like when the tools don't work and having to have this experience and this practice on an everyday basis. So, and also listening to your intuition. So I just want to say to everyone here, I recorded a video yesterday. It's called Divination Tools. I would love for you to go watch that. Even if you don't watch the whole hour, just watch the first part of it. Because what I said was, in this day and age, because there are so many untruths out there, people telling you what to be, people telling you who you are, people telling you who you are is wrong, and also not to mention the media and the news that's happening right now, that it is so important for us to use tools like divination because it gets us in touch with our intuition, and our intuition is always right. Always. So please go watch that video. I'm going to link to it if you're watching this on YouTube. So I want to ask you, you know, how do you stay in tune with that intuition? And what are some of the daily practices you use that you feel are really helpful to not only other empaths and sensitive folks, but just people in general so that they can continue to feel that truth instead of listening to what's happening and all of the junk that's coming into them?
Yeah. And this is so important. If you do nothing else, like this is the most important thing because we live in a very noisy world, right? Sensitive or not, like there's a lot going on. A society has become so much faster paced. We're supposed to keep up with so many things. We're bombarded with messages, advertising, media. There's just a lot going on. And so if you do not like intentionally and consciously set aside time to shut all of that out and to listen to what's in here, then it can be really hard to even know what your own truth is. And when you're not tapping in to your own inner voice, you're much more susceptible to believing all of the voices from the outside coming in. So it's really, I mean, you know, this can look a little bit different for everybody, but the most important thing is that you have time during your day, and I recommend the morning because that sets the tone for the rest of your day, where you're shutting everything else out and making a very specific time to listen to what's going on within. So, and I want to preface this by saying, if this is something that you're not used to doing, or you may be used to do and you haven't done for a while, don't get discouraged if you start doing this and you're like, I don't know, I can't hear anything. Sometimes that happens in the beginning when we're out of practice or when this is new for us, because we're so used to, as empaths and sensitives, we have like these little energetic like antennae, right? And they are just like taking in all of this information from the world around us. And it's an emotional muscle, really. It's a skill to learn to tune those antennae back into our own frequency. So if at first you're doing this and you feel like you can't hear anything or you don't know what your own truth is, don't give up, keep trying, because our own inner guide, our intuition, our gut, we have to have a relationship with that voice the way that we would have a relationship with any other person outside of us. So sometimes in the beginning, I almost feel like our inner voice can be a little shy if we haven't listened to it in a long time, or ever for some folks. And also it might be harder for us to recognize what is our own voice and what is the conditioning that we've taken on for years and years from the world around us. So don't give up. She's in there and she will talk to you, but sometimes it takes a little bit of coaxing and practice. That being said, what I like to do, I have kind of a handful of tools that I draw from depending on how I'm feeling each day. But the most important thing is that I am in my room where I have my magical tools, where I have my altar. Door is shut. Even if my husband is home, he knows to leave me alone. And, I usually wear headphones just so that I can block out the noise of the world around me. I'll listen to music. Sometimes I just listen to white noise. And I start by just sitting. And for me, this is really hard because, I talk very fast, I'm sure. But like, I have this very like busy, go, go, go kind of personality. But I have to force myself to like stop and slow down and sit and breathe and take that time to really calm my nervous system down and ground back in. And then I'll meditate. I journal a lot. Journaling is a powerful tool for having a conversation with yourself, because when you just let yourself free write, that can help you to start to pick apart like what's yours and what isn't yours, and to coax out that voice of your truth. I like to pull cards. I know Kristen does this a lot too. I'm obsessed with oracle cards. Oracle cards are a really beautiful tool for you to tap into your intuition, because if you pull a card, your first reaction to it, the first thing you think, that's your gut, that's your intuition talking. It's a way to break through into your subconscious. So that's a really beautiful tool to use as well. It's really about having a ritual around it. And as witches, like, ritual is magic, right? So when you set that intention is so powerful. And so if your intention is to sit down and listen to yourself, that in and of itself is going to start to bring out your magic.
Yes.
Another thing is I really like to use oils and candles. So again, it's about ritual. It's about setting the tone. It's about telling your body and your mind and your spirit that this is the time that's for you and your inner world. So I have a certain essential oil that I only use when I'm doing these routines. So the second I smell it, my brain is automatically like, oh, I know what we're doing here.
Yes.
And the same with candles. And so if you can build this really beautiful ritual around it, you're telling your inner self, like, you're important enough for me to sit down and spend time with you every single day. And once you start doing that on a regular basis, all of a sudden you're like, oh, there's this whole other thing going on in here. And it feels so right. And it feels so freeing. And it feels so true. And the stronger that bond becomes with you and your inner self and your inner voice, the less and less and less you're going to be bothered by the people that are like, why are you so sensitive? Because, yeah, it's annoying and it can hurt our feelings. But at the end of the day, like, what really matters, your truth or theirs,
Yeah. Hallelujah. Oh my God. And I just want to comment on something that you said. It was just wonderful. Like, you need to write books and have your own show. There's so many amazing things here that people need to know. Let's just on the note of ritual, because this is a video that I'm going to be doing as well. And because a lot of people are new to magic, they're new and they're curious what it is. And you hear the word ritual a lot. And you also hear it in other practices. Kundalini, meditation is a ritual. And I wanted to just point out that ritual is so important because, sometimes we think of ritual and we think like a bunch of women in the woods with candles dancing. Yes, that is a ritual. And that's an amazing one too. But you can have self rituals. And the purpose of a ritual is to practice to have that muscle memory and that emotional memory. And when you practice something over and over and over again, like you said, because this is exactly what happens to me, I have my incense and my candles. And the moment I set down in my space, in my ritual sacred space, my mind, body, soul, heart, emotions, everything immediately knows what I'm doing. So the more you do it, you know, for those of you that are like, I can't sit, I can't meditate, that's why, of course, I also recommend divination tools, because it kind of distracts you and you're still doing the same thing as accessing your intuition. But if you do it constantly, you will develop that skill over time, because your mind will stop. It will say, okay, this is what we're doing now. And that's how you're able to access guidance. That's how you become an expert at it, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to move on to Magick, because, you know, as I mentioned, Amber and I are both witches. We met so long ago, but one of our favorite things to do every year is go to fairy world. So we are so in touch with the nature realm, with the little folk, with everything that belongs in that world. And when we're talking about magic and sensitivity, so this could be for empaths, but could also be for anyone. One of the things that you experience when you start tapping into your own magic, you realize it's a lot of self-work. You start expanding and opening up to the universe, because you're connecting to the earth, you're connecting to the cosmos, the moon. We have a lot of moon people here. And when you go through that process and you start expanding, you become so much more sensitive to the energies of the earth, of the cosmos. So that not only means that you are hearing the earth, that you are out there and absorbing all of her wonderful energies, you also become sensitive to the outside world. And a lot of times when people start practicing magic, they go through like the Kundalini awakening, like it triggers a lot of their trauma from the past to come up, because as we connect to the earth, she is so pure, she is complete light and divine feminine. Our bodies have to actually purge all of that trauma in order to align with her, in order for us to be in that same energetic space. So talk to me a little bit about your experience, because you were already an empath and an HSP, but when you stepped into your magic and your full power, you know, a lot, if you don't mind me asking, a lot of your past came up and a lot of the trauma from childhood came up. And I think a lot of people go through that, and they would love to hear from you and your experience around that, and how you kind of coped with it and realized like the bigger picture, I guess, is really what it comes down to.
Yeah, for sure. And this is so important, because most empaths and HSPs tend to have had, you know, not always, but tend to experience trauma more than the average person, which makes sense because we feel things deeper, right? So we're more heavily affected by things. And yeah, when you start to do this work, and particularly like you did mention, Kristen, like sometimes when you sit down, it's like, I can't clear my mind, I can't meditate. One of the things that happened to me when I first started practicing this work was that I couldn't, like every time I sat down to meditate, I had a straight up panic attack. And when that happened, I was really mad at myself. I was like taking it out on myself, like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I meditate right? You know, I really got very, very frustrated. And what I learned and what I know now is that what was happening is that a lot of my history of being kind of like very busy, go was in response to the trauma that I experienced as a child. And in my young adulthood and into my 20s, I have had a lot of things that I've gone through in my life. And so sitting down and trying to stop and be quiet, all of that stuff started bubbling up to the surface. And so it's like, no wonder I was having a panic attack, right? But I needed to go through that. I needed to let that stuff come up. And, you know, I had been dealing, I mean, like, I'm obsessed with therapy. I'm obsessed with self-help. I started reading self-help books when I was like 10 years old, you know, so it's not that I hadn't already started to process some of that stuff, but what Kristen's referring to is this extra level of sensitivity that you unlock, that you open up. And to be able to really, really access the absolute height of your power and experience like the real truth of who you are and your magic, you have to go through these sort of initiations, which is really processing that stuff at a very deep core level. Processing, trauma that may have happened to you in the past, but also the societal conditioning, which in and of itself can be traumatic a lot of times. And so this stuff kind of has to come up, and it can be really scary. And so I want to say to any of you who might just be diving into this type of work, like get a support team, of people that are doing it as well. Because when you're doing this in isolation, if you don't know what's going on, it can feel like, oh my God, like I do not want to go there. And then we run from it, because magic and power can be scary because it's intense. And because of the type of work that we need to do to be able to truly access it. So, it's normal to be scared. And it's normal to feel that stuff come up. And it's normal to have to go through those initiations and, reach out to your fellow empaths, your fellow HSPs, your fellow witches, to be able to kind of like know that you're not alone in that, and that's not, it doesn't mean there's something wrong with you, or that, it's going to be that it's going to feel that intense forever. I think it's really important for people to know that, because it can scare you away from this type of work. But the truth is that, like, if you think about it, like as an empath and as an HSP, like, you've been through so much already. Like, you've carried so much weight. Like, you've dealt with so much chaos and trauma. Like, you can do this. And once you do, it's just this really beautiful process of like, kind of like rising from the ashes almost of that past life, and rising into your power, and realizing that like you're okay just exactly as you are. And not just okay, but that you are created that way on purpose. Like, your soul came here with a mission. Your sensitivity is no accident. Your empathy is no accident. These are gifts that we're given, and every gift comes with its own challenges and initiations, and it can, and that can be really scary. But like, you're very powerful and very gifted, and this is the path that Mother Earth and the greater universe is calling you to walk upon, especially right now. And so know that like you will get through it, and you have this powerful community of other empaths and witches and magical people around you that are like with you every step of the way, even if you can't see them physically, especially right now.
Oh my gosh. And of course, we're going to put the links in the description, but Amber runs a group called Super Sensitive. She is a coach. I am running the Magic Grove. I am all about teaching people how to open up to their magic. So there are so many people here. I want to just say really quick, I never said what I was drinking. I have a tea called Phoenix Rising. And it's one of my favorite teas because it symbolizes to me that moment that I stood in my power. And a lot of what magic is learning how to step in your own power. I always say this, magic is personal power plus intention. The spells, the meditations, all of that stuff is just, those are just practices that are layered on top. At the root, it is you and your power. So as you're opening up to your personal power, as you're experiencing that surge of like, wow, I am not powerless, I am not a victim of my childhood or of my past, you are getting that sensation of personal power. And it takes a lot of getting used to. Even your own mind will tell you, this isn't right. I don't have this power. But that's what the self-work is. Doing the self-help work, practicing magic is kind of all one and the same. It's you are learning how to stand in your power. And one other thing that you had mentioned, because you were talking, you just said you've been through a lot already. When you start opening up to the universe, you feel like things are happening to you, when in reality, number one, things from your past that you've maybe repressed or haven't fully cleared are only coming back for you to be released. So they're not happening to you in the present. They are things that were embedded in your body and your mind that are being released. The other thing is, when you start realizing the people in your life don't make sense, your partner isn't the right one, that happens to a lot of people as well, because you're standing in your power, and understand that those people need to be cleared out, because they are actually soulmates that are contracted to you to help you stand in your power. Like Amber said, that is why you are here. You are here to use this as a superpower, and your entire life, and this goes for everyone, is a challenge only because it is us fighting against our natural state. And that is being powerful empaths, that is being powerful witches, that is being able to stand in our power and use our magic to change our own lives and to change the world. And until we get to that state where we fully believe it, it will feel like a challenge, right? I mean, how long did it take us? Our entire lives? And I'm older than Amber. Like, our entire lives, just recently, maybe even this year, maybe even earlier this year, we were sitting here like, why are these things happening? And now we're both like, we've got work to do.
Yeah. 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 And it's, I'm really glad that you mentioned that too, because sometimes people in our lives, fall away. They might not understand this new process that we're going through, this new level that we're reaching. And when I say stuff like that, I'm always really cautious about, like, we're not in any way, shape, or form saying that, like, if you do this work, you're better than other people. That's not what this is about. No. This is about you and your life and how this is, it's everyone has access to this work, sensitive or not, it's whether you choose to do it or not. And it's so none of this is about, better than in any way, shape, or form. So, but I've had people say that to me before. That's why I mentioned that, because I always talk about, like, sensitivity is a superpower. It really is. I mean, I'm sorry, but, like, we can actually feel other people's feelings. How is that not, like,
not only that, we can feel the world, and we also are more psychic than others. Like, we can not only feel people's feelings, but a lot of times our psychic abilities happen on an emotional level, and we can feel things before they happen. Like, there's just so many things that come along with being an empath that are amazing.
We're highly clairsentient and we're highly claircognizant. So for those of you who don't know all of the clairs, they're just different ways where you have heightened senses. So, claircognizance is when you just feel something in your gut and you just know something. You don't know why you know it. Maybe you shouldn't know it. There's no reason for you to know it, but you know it so much that you're like, I can't unconvince myself of this. That's claircognizance, because you just know. And then clairsentience is the feeling, like the heightened feeling. So you feel and you know things because you can feel them. You can feel the energies of the world shifting. You can feel, the person sitting next to you on the bus or whatever. So we do have very heightened clairs in those two areas. And some of us, the rest of them, I mean, some people can see things and hear things, but yeah, it can be really frightening. We resist change, right? Like, we resist having to let certain people go, or, feel like, oh my gosh, like, this relationship or this job or that is no longer a fit for me, because I'm stepping into this newer, knowing of myself and connection to my own magic. And, I would never want to gloss over that and be like, oh yeah, you'll just get through it. It's hard and it's scary. It can be, really, but at the end of the day, like, the outcome is so worth it. So worth it. And
so worth it.
This stuff will continue to come up for you. Kristen and I were talking the other day when I started my business, because for a long time I worked in corporate advertising, which not a good place for an empath, but
corporate period is not a good place for an empath. Raise your hand if you work there, both of us.
Yeah. I mean, you can do it. I did it for years, but not ideal. So when I decided to go back to school and become a coach and start doing this emotional wellness work, a lot of stuff started coming up for me. And I was like, what is going on? I was like, I thought I cleared this already. I thought I dealt with this already. Like, why is this coming back up for me? For example, perfectionism and, like, self-doubt and things that are very universal human experiences, but that I had worked really hard on to kind of, like, master those areas. And then I was like, what the hell is going on? But the thing is that when I started this business, I was stepping into that next level of my higher self, of not only doing this work within and with me, but to bring it out to the world at large and to put myself out in the public eye. And so no wonder those things started coming back up again, because it was another level of initiation, and another, more layers that I needed to kind of clear. It's like, the stuff will continue to come up, but the more that you do it, the quicker you'll be like, oh, I know what's going on here.
Right? How many, my friend Kim and I joke about this all the time, because, early on in my spiritual awakening, years and years and years ago, it would take like a whole year. And now something comes up and we're like, God, I feel gross. And like, then we laugh. We're like, before 24 hours is up, like, I just have to sleep and I'll wake up the next day and it's all fine, because I have the tools. Not just the tools, but the awareness and the knowing of the bigger picture. And that is part of this process of learning magic as well, is as you open up to the world, as you open up to the earth and the cosmos, you start getting a lot of downloads. Like you will start getting information about how the world works that you are like, no one told me this, but I just know. Like, this is my soul talking to me. I just know. And so I know right now, you know, I read a quote that was like, don't feel guilty if you're not struggling during this time. And I don't know if that's how you're feeling right now, Amber, but I'm feeling that as well, as like, not only I'm not struggling as much as everyone else because I've already been through this awakening on such a crazy, massive personal level that yes, I did feel what you were talking about, all those layers stepping into my business. And I've done that several times. But I'm in a state right now after going through layer after layer after layer, and this is what you can all look forward to, is I'm in a state right now where I see so much clarity and truth. I see the direction that we're going with this virus. I see my participation in the world. I understand why I came and why I'm here. And that is sort of, I don't want to say the tail end, but that's the culmination of the work. When you accept that you have a superpower and you're an empath and you stand in your power and you accept yourself and you love yourself, the end of that is getting that clarity. And once you go through that process, you will be asked to step out there and lead other people. And I think we both have gone through that. And I really just want to mention that because a lot of folks here, you have training. I'm about to open a school on Magick. Really, I want to train leaders. I love that people are healing. I love that humanity out there is healing and awakening, but I want to train leaders who are going to awaken and turn around and help other people. And I think that's how this whole process goes, right? Yeah. So tell me a little bit, if we can talk about Magick a little bit more, because I know you have so many other people that you've been inspired by, but who has inspired you? Like, so for example, we both love Brian Froud, like Brian Froud Fairy Oracle. And I've read so many books on witchcraft, and like who kind of inspired you when it comes to like standing in your power and stepping into your magic?
Oh my gosh, so many people.
And that's how that works. Like they inspire you, you grow, and then you inspire others, right?
Yeah. And I think that, that's so important because we can, just by doing this work ourselves, just by being who you are and walking through these fires and opening up to your own magic, that in and of itself, without you doing anything else, shines this powerful light and puts out this powerful energy that is showing others that it's possible for them too. Like, I didn't get to where I am in a vacuum. I watched other people and my soul told me who to follow. And I was attracted to people naturally who were doing this work. And then I looked to them as, how did you do this? And how did you get to where you are? I've had a lot of, people that have been greatly inspirational to me, Kristen included, we inspire each other all
you too.
the time. Like, and yeah, for me, even as a young girl, I was reading about witchcraft and I was very into like the King Arthur legends and all of that type of stuff, and Morgan Le Fay and that whole kind of like legend. I read the book The Mists of Avalon when I was 12 years old, and that cracked me open in a massive way. That book was
favorite books on earth. Like you and I love Mists of Avalon. If you haven't read it, some people don't like it. It's one of my favorite books, and I know it's yours.
It's because it's all about rising into feminine power. Yes. And about how, as women, we have, almost a responsibility to not try to, because what I see happening so much more and more in this day and age is women trying to lead in a masculine way and women trying to gain respect by being more like men and by trying to be more masculine. And now I'm not saying that in a shaming way because it makes perfect sense, because especially when it comes to corporate, that's almost what we have been trained to do. If you want to climb the ladder, you have to do it in this way, in the way that the masculine built it, right? But the truth is, is that we are never more powerful as women than when we are deeply in our feminine. And this is something that I have struggled with greatly myself, because I really hooked onto this kind of like drive and this like claw your way through it, you know, because of the traumatic childhood that I had. That was sort of my safety net. And so when I first started opening up to my feminine, it felt really unsafe, because it felt, sorry, I'm going off on kind of a different direction, but I think it's important.
I love this.
You know, it felt really unsafe because it felt too like open and flowy and too, you know, and I wanted to be like, no, I'm going to like power through this. But really that entire book is about how powerful women can be when they don't fight their true nature, but in fact, like stand in it even more taller. And because it's the King Arthur story told from the perspective of the women and not the men. So I could talk about that book forever, but point being, like, it was books like that. And it was, you know, I was a huge fan of Gabrielle Bernstein for a long time. Love her, not so much into her stuff anymore, love her to death. She taught me so much, but we keep moving and evolving and finding more and more people that are a match for where our soul is trying to get us to go. And so, you know, I love and bless like all of the women that have been showing up in the world so that people like us can see them and see what's possible and follow, you know, and learn from them. And then as you learn from these powerful figures around you, you start to take those learnings and adapt them to your own truth and your own magic in your own world. And then it's like you have all of this stuff. It's almost like, how can you not like go out and teach others and show others and spread this and have that ripple effect going on? And, you know, Kristen talking about leadership, it really is like a lot of times us sensitives and empaths were like, I couldn't be a leader, you know, but actually we make amazing leaders.
Yeah, we do, because you know why? We are empathetic. We understand human people. We understand people, human nature. Okay, so two things I wanted to point out. This is a really, really important point, because I built the Magic Grove around, I mean, yes, I love talking about nature magic. Yes, you know, but it's not just a group where it's like, hey, let's talk about nature. First and foremost, I am building a school for magic, for nature magic in specific. But also, like I said, I want to find the leaders. I want to find the people that I can train to go out there. But also, my whole goal at the end of my school is to bring in women like you, women and men, who are out there and helping people find their next guide. So it is really important to understand that if you are drawn to someone, and that's why I did this show, Tea and Magic, because I wanted to bring in other experts. I know somebody watching here is going to be like, I need to work with Amber, or many people, and that's amazing. That's exactly why I did it, because as I allow and as I help other people that I know be seen, and as I am seen, when you are at that level where you're ready to lead, people are automatically attracted to your light, your specific light. So first, that means that you don't have to try so hard in business and like marketing, because if you're just out there and sharing your knowledge and sharing your wisdom, the right people are going to be attracted to you, because guess what? You have a soul contract with that person. They were looking for you. You might both not know it, but that's how it works. Number two, we do find people and we are attracted to them and they work for us. But then as we move to other levels, they are still there teaching the next wave of people, and you might find somebody else. So never feel guilty if you're like, God, I was so into that person, they're just not my vibe anymore. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that you have moved on. I won't even say up or down. You've moved over here and they're doing this and they've moved on as well. And you're always looking for the people that you feel deep in your heart and soul that you are in alignment with.
Yes.
And the last thing I want to say, I am so happy you went off on this tangent, because it was a tangent. It's just that we're so intuitive that I think Amber and I are always on the same page. I literally just posted a video talking about how the entire world shifted overnight into the divine feminine. Many of us that have been doing this spiritual work have been working on our divine feminine. We've been moving. And what that means is, by the way, everyone has a feminine and masculine. So this is for men and women. We have both sides. And as a world, we need to find the balance. We need both. But we have predominantly been masculine for thousands and thousands of years, and we have been repressing that intuition, repressing that emotional side, that creative side. It's kind of looked down upon to have feelings like we talked about. And so I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's what we're all doing right now, is helping the world. We're now flipped to going like fully feminine. So like anybody that's in that go, go, go mode or struggling right now, look at yourself and look at your life and go, well, where am I pushing? Where am I still allowing myself to live in that dominant masculine, where it's all about taking uninspired and unintuitive action? And how can I rest and sit back and be still and meditate and listen to myself more? And I guarantee once you do that, and this is a global thing right now, once you do that and you pause and you start tuning in, things are going to feel so much cleaner. Again, you might kick off a little spiritual awakening process. You might open another onion layer, right? That's always possible. It happens to us too. But it's necessary, and you are going to be pushed. So I'm so glad you mentioned that, because you can feel that, right? Like you can really feel, even within yourself, it's like, okay, now I can't fake it anymore. I cannot continue to be dominant masculine. I must stop and be who I truly am. But even if you're a man, like the world is asking you to do this as well, because we need to see what that other side is like.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is that, you know, it is all about balance, and we have been so deeply out of balance that, you know, things are going to have to, like, the pendulum has to swing at some point. And we all have those two sides of us, and there's not, you know, it's not good or bad. It's just it needs to be balanced, and it hasn't been. And, you know, the masculine is just as important as the feminine, but vice versa. So it's like, we have to, you know, I always look at, it's so funny because my birth chart is almost like just a total like metaphor for this whole thing, because I'm a Scorpio. So like super watery, flowy, emotional, passionate, you know, all those things. But I have Libra everywhere in my chart. And not only is Libra a more masculine sign, but it's also the balance sign. Right. So it's interesting. And when I had my first chart done by my friend Danielle Mercurio, who's amazing, you should check out her work as well. She's an amazing astrologer. She was like, oh, see, this is telling you, like, big part of your journey is to come back home to the truth of who you are, which is your Scorpio and your rising Leo, and to find balance with that masculine and feminine, because that drive, that sort of like, I always have to be on and going, that was a coping mechanism. That was something that I held on to for safety. But in doing that, I really turned my back on my feminine. And so part of my own personal journey and my soul's path has been to recognize that, and to allow that hard grasp on holding on to the masculine as safety, to release and relax and find that you're never more safe than when you're truly who you are. When you're being your most authentic self. That is the safest, most powerful place that you can be. But we get so many messages that tell us the opposite. And so, you know, it's really going through that process of realizing that when you let go of that need for control and let yourself accept all of who you are and stand in your authentic truth and speak that truth out into the world, no longer apologize for who you are, be afraid of that. Like, that's the culmination of you, like, stepping into your magic.
Oh my gosh, I love you so. See why we're best friends, you guys. Like, I just want to say this. This is so important, because when you are, God, I love you so much, Amber. But when you are going through your awakening, look for your tribe. You will always find a tribe. First of all, when you start going through these processes, you will be secluded. The universe does that very specifically on purpose. It feels like it strips away everything in your life and everyone in your life, because you are meant to be alone, to be able to access yourself. That's what we're seeing in the world right now. We are seeing everyone be isolated from everyone else to force everyone into that self-introspection. However, you will always have a tribe of people that align with you, whether it's my group or it's your group or it's your friends. And this is, you know, I can say that after going through my clearing, all of my friends that remained are like the most amazing humans. Like Amber, we are all on the same page. We all get one another. And most importantly, they get me. when you are yourself and you are not afraid to be who you are and to put yourself out there and to be seen and to really love and cherish who you are, you magnetize those people to you. And that is how you build a tribe, because you all of a sudden surrounded by people that are like, you're so authentic. I want to be around you. And like, you know them and they know you. And it's the most beautiful thing in the world to be around people that get you, isn't it?
Oh gosh. And it really see you for who you are. Like, it's like you can
And
finally
love you unconditionally.
yeah, because you don't have to force or pretend or hide or explain or any, you just get to be. And you see each other and you love each other and you support each other, and it's not competitive, and it's easy. It's easy because it's meant to be. And it's supposed to be. And it's just like the most like blissful feeling, honestly. Like when you're with someone who just sees you and loves you unconditionally for who you are. And even when you're at your worst, when you're having your worst day, and that person is just going to hold you and love you through it because they know the best of you.
And by the way, Amber's husband, Ty, is also one of my best friends. That's how we met. That's how I met Amber. And I just want to say this because it came up and I'm like, oh, I got to mention this. Sort of related, but because I saw somebody the other day mention something about love being easy, and people here constantly, of course, like looking for their relationship, looking for love. And we know that we have soulmates over this lifetime that are there to help us again stand in our power and also discover who we really are. But when two people get together that are authentically themselves, this is another reason to be authentic and be yourself. You magnetize that love, you magnetize that relationship to you. And now you have two people that unconditionally love another because they unconditionally love themselves.
Yes. So much yes. Yeah. Because that's the thing.
That's the key to love.
Yeah. It's not finding somebody to complete you. It's two wholes coming together to love and support each other and walk beside each other. It's not like I need you to fill my hole. I mean,
I did it.
I mean, there's that too, but no. But you know what I mean? Like, it's not looking for somebody to fix something in you, because it's not about fixing. It's about coming together and being like, I just love you and how much you love yourself and how much of yourself that you are. And we walk beside each other so well. It's not about like, you need to find somebody that's all of a sudden going to make everything okay or make you okay, because that's not.
There's no saving here. It's only self-love. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love you so much. We are at time. Okay, Amber's definitely going to be back because we can talk forever. I think we actually need to have our own show together. I'm just throwing it out there, universe, because I'm sitting here listening, I was like, well, I'm a host and you are an amazing star and we just need to have a show. What do you guys think about that? Would you watch?
Let us know.
Yeah. So lastly, just tell everyone, I'm going to have the links in the description wherever you're watching, but please tell everyone where they can find you so that they can go find your magical little butt and follow you and learn from you and hopefully work with you.
Yeah, you guys, so you can find me at amberrochelle.com. That's my website, which has links to all my socials, but basically it's just at Miss Amber Rochelle, MS Amber Rochelle. So that's Instagram, that's Facebook. And I do have a Facebook group called Super Sensitive. So come join us there. It's really fun. I do a lot of free talks and awesome content in there. And yeah, I would love to meet you guys. And if you have any follow-up questions or anything like that, totally reach out to me. I love building new connections. I'm an open book. I adore working with amazing magical women and helping them step into, their ultimate power and leadership. So come find me and let's be friends and let's talk.
Thank you so much for being here, Amber. I love you so much. I can't wait until the next time you're back. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you're watching on Facebook, if you're watching on Instagram or on YouTube, you can also find us every week at the Magic Grove. On Instagram, it's at the Magic Grove. On Facebook, it's a group called the Magic Grove, where we're always talking about magic, but we're talking about more than magic. We're talking about standing in your power and changing the world. And that is what we're all about. And I hope to continue continue to bring amazing guests your way to show you that that is possible. So thank you so much, girl. And I love you guys.
Thank you.